Game of Madness. The rain lashed against the decaying manor, the wind howling like a tormented soul. Inside, a lone figure, Elias Thorne, paced the dusty library, his brow furrowed. Dust motes danced in the flickering candlelight, casting grotesque shadows on the overflowing bookshelves. Elias clutched a worn leather-bound book, its title embossed in faded gold, A Game of Madness. Elias, a renowned historian specializing in the macabre, had inherited the manor and the book from a distant, eccentric relative. Curiosity gnawed at him. What madness did the book hold? He settled into a groaning armchair, the scent of aged paper and decay filling his nostrils. The book spoke of an ancient ritual, a game played with the very fabric of sanity. Participants would face increasingly terrifying challenges designed to break their minds. The victor emerged, not triumphant, but forever marked by their brush with madness. As Elias read, a morbid fascination bloomed in his chest. A sudden crack from the upper floor startled him. Ignoring it, he delved deeper into the ritual. It required an intricate setup, specific objects scattered throughout the manor. A shiver ran down his spine as he realized the book listed exactly what he'd found scattered around the house. A tarnished silver mirror, a rusted key, and a vial filled with an ominous black liquid. Driven by an unseen force, Elias decided to partake in the game. Was it the lure of the unknown, or a darker force at play? He meticulously set up the items, placing the mirror across from the book and the key on an ornately carved chest in the corner. The final step was terrifyingly simple. He had to prick his finger and drip a single drop of blood onto the black liquid. A moment of hesitation, then the prick, a tiny bead of crimson blooming on his finger. He held it over the vial, his breath catching in his throat. As the blood dripped in, the room dipped into a chilling darkness. When his vision returned, the library had morphed. The bookshelves were now cages, rattling with unseen creatures. The air grew thick and humid, the stench of decay replacing the musty scent of old paper. A voice, raspy and inhuman, echoed in his head. "Welcome to the Game of Madness, Elias Thorne. Are you prepared to play?" Terror pulsed through him, but a morbid curiosity kept him rooted to the spot. What happens?" he stammered. "You will face 3 challenges. Each will exploit your deepest fears. Fail any, and your mind will crumble. Succeed, and you win something." The voice chuckled, a sound like scraping nails on a chalkboard. The first challenge began. Groans and moans filled the transformed library. Spectral figures materialized, their faces contorted in eternal screams. Elias recognized his greatest fear: loneliness. These were the ghosts of those who had died alone, forgotten. The air grew heavy with despair, threatening to drown him. He closed his eyes, focusing on a memory, his grandmother, her smile filled with warmth. He imagined her voice, soothing and strong, urging him to fight. With a newfound resolve, Elias spoke aloud, his voice firm. "I may be alone here, but I carry the memories of those I love. Your despair has no power over me." The ghosts wavered, their cries fading. The spectral library flickered, returning to its dilapidated state. Elias gasped, collapsing onto the floor. Panic subsided, replaced by a chilling realization. The game was real, and the stakes were terrifyingly high. The second challenge arrived the next morning. As Elias entered the kitchen, a pungent odor filled the air. Flies buzzed around a putrid mound of flesh lying on the table, pulsated with a sickly green light. The voice echoed in his head, its amusement clear. "Seems you fear death, Elias. Face this embodiment and emerge victorious." His stomach churned, bile rising in his throat. But then, a glint in the corner caught his eye: the rusted key. Grabbing it, he remembered the ornate chest. Was this the answer? He ran towards the chest, fumbled with the key, and finally unlocked it. Inside, nestled in velvet, lay a silver flask. Elias felt an intuitive pull towards it. He uncorked it, and a sweet, fragrant aroma filled the room, overpowering the stench. With a deep breath, He poured the contents on the pulsating flesh. Sizzling filled the air as the green light died, replaced by a faint white glow. The flesh withered, shrinking into a harmless black powder. Relief washed over Elias, leaving him weak but victorious. Days turned into a blur for Elias. The manor itself seemed to shift, morphing into monstrous parodies of his daily life. Every creak, every groan, felt like a taunt. He spent his nights hunched over the book, desperately searching for clues about the final challenge. One morning, he woke to a deafening silence. The oppressive dread that had become a constant companion was gone. The air felt clean, unnaturally so. A sliver of hope, fragile and hesitant, sprouted in his chest. Had he won? He found his answer in the breakfast room. A simple white tablecloth covered the table, a single plate holding a steaming cup of tea and a slice of buttered toast. As he sat down, the voice spoke one last time. "Congratulations, Elias Thorne. You have overcome your fears and emerged victorious. But remember, the winner of this game never truly wins." Confused, Elias lifted the cup to his lips. As the warm liquid touched his tongue, a horrifying realization dawned. The taste, it was his own blood, metallic and unmistakable. Panic choked him as nausea surged through him. He hadn't defeated the game, he'd become part of it. The walls twisted, the manor morphing once again. The book, A Game of Madness, lay open on the table, the pages filled with Elias's own handwriting, detailing the horrific challenges he'd just faced. Below his final entry, a new line bloomed, "The next player awaits." A guttural scream tore from Elias's throat, raw and primal. He lunged for the book, his fingers clawing at the pages. But as he touched the ink-stained parchment, a blinding white light engulfed him. When the light faded, the library stood empty, the book lying closed on the table. Evelyn Parker, a young university professor specializing in folklore, stood on the manor's crumbling steps, keys jangling in her hand. She'd inherited the property from a distant relative, a man named Elias Thorne. No one seemed to know much about him, but the price had been too good to pass up. Stepping inside, Evelyn felt a strange chill crawl down her spine. The air hung heavy with an unseen presence. Dust motes danced in a ray of sunlight filtering through a broken window, painting the air with an ethereal glow. Despite the chill, an odd pull drew her towards the library. The room was a mess of dusty books and overturned furniture. A single book lay open on a table, its pages filled with chilling tales of a macabre ritual. Evelyn's brow furrowed in concentration as she scanned the text. Spoke of a game, a test of sanity. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the room, slamming the shutters shut. Evelyn shivered, a strange sense of unease settling in her stomach. Then, a voice, a raspy whisper like dry leaves rustling in the wind, echoed in the vast room. "Welcome home, Evelyn Parker. Are you ready to play?" Evelyn's blood ran cold. Panic threatened to consume her, but years of research and a healthy dose of skepticism fueled her resolve. This was a trick, an elaborate ruse. She wouldn't fall for it. "Who are you? What is this game?" she demanded, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts. The voice chuckled, a sound like sandpaper on bone. "You'll find out soon enough. Now pick up the book, Evelyn. The game has begun." The descent. Evelyn, though shaken, refused to play the game. She slammed the book shut, determined to find a rational explanation. She spent the next few days exploring the manor, unearthing the silver mirror, the rusted key, and the vial of black liquid, just as described in the book. A horrifying possibility dawned on her. The game wasn't just a story, but rejecting it wasn't an option. The manor itself seemed to be taunting her. Eerie whispers followed her. Shadows danced at the corners of her vision. Driven to desperation, Evelyn decided to play by her own rules. She researched historical methods of warding off evil, prayers, symbols, protective incantations. Days turned into weeks as she transformed the decaying manor into a bastion of light and hope. She placed mirrors at strategic points, reflecting the evil back onto itself. Chanting mantras, she drew holy symbols on the walls, banishing the shadows. One night, as she slept, the familiar chill returned. A dark figure loomed over her, its face obscured by shadow. It reached out a skeletal hand, its touch promising an eternity of torment. Just as it was about to grab her, Evelyn woke with a gasp. Heart pounding, she grabbed a tarnished silver cross from her nightstand. Holding it high, the figure recoiled, screeching in a voice that scraped against her sanity. The room flickered, morphing for a moment into a grotesque parody of a torture chamber before snapping back to its familiar state. The figure vanished, leaving behind an oppressive silence. Evelyn understood. Fear was the key, the fuel that powered the game. By refusing to fear, she was turning the tables. The entity, whatever it was, thrived on her terror. Now, with her newfound knowledge, she could fight back. Days blurred into weeks as Evelyn waged a silent war against the unseen entity. She filled the manor with light and positive energy, replacing the oppressive darkness with laughter and music. She found solace in research, poring over ancient texts for a way to permanently banish the entity. One evening, as she sat by the fireplace, a book forgotten in her lap, a voice echoed in her head. It was the same voice, but tinged with desperation. "You will never win, Evelyn. This manor is mine, and you will succumb to its darkness eventually." Evelyn smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "No. This is my home now, and I will cleanse it of your presence. You feed on fear, but I offer you nothing but defiance. Leave this place and never return." Silence descended, thick and heavy. The air crackled with unseen tension. Then, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the room, the sound of a creature in unimaginable pain. The windows rattled, the lights flickered, and a gust of cold wind swept through the room, carrying with it the stench of sulfur and despair. When the chaos subsided, an eerie peace settled over the manor. The oppressive aura was gone, replaced by a sense of serenity. Evelyn went to the library, drawn to the book, A Game of Madness. As she touched it, a wave of information flooded her mind. The entity was a malevolent spirit, trapped in the manor by a failed ritual centuries ago. The game was its desperate attempt to lure in a new host, a soul weak enough to succumb to its fear. But Evelyn had defied it. By flooding the manor with light and refusing to be afraid, she had starved the entity, weakening it until it could no longer hold itself within the manor. It had been banished back to whatever dark realm it came from. With trembling hands, Evelyn opened the book. The pages were blank. The story of the game was gone, erased from existence with the entity's defeat. Relief washed over her, but a bittersweet tinge remained. She had won, but at a cost. The manor would forever hold a dark secret, a whisper of the horror she had faced. Yet, as she looked out the window at the rising sun, bathing the manor in its warm glow, Evelyn knew she wasn't alone. The spirit might be gone, but the echoes of its terror would linger. Now, it was up to her to transform the manor from a house of horrors into a home, a testament to her courage and the power of light against darkness. The game might be over, but the fight against fear itself, would continue, a constant reminder of her victory.